Alright, welcome back everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We're going to begin with roll call. Secretary?
Okay, I tried to take everybody off here that was abroad, but if I missed anyone, just let me know. Michael Aldinger.
Here.
Mike Anderson.
Here.
Jim Byrne. Ruth Canagaraja. Here. Mark Cannon.
Here.
Rob Crivello. Sarah Donenberg. Are we going to get anything else from Rose? Okay. Adam Ferrum.
Here.
Pat Gordon. Nicholas Hahn. Hubert Hines. Andrew Karasek.
Here.
Gavin Kierans. John King. Andrew Coombs. Matthew Lockman. Sean Leonard. Daniel Lurch. Sam Lohner.
Here.
Benjamin Lombard.
Here.
Stephen Lucas.
Here.
Nick Mann.
Here.
Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Here. Christopher Morrell. Muzafa Munn. Christopher Knott.
Present.
Ellie Ockelberg. Here. Joanne Olson. Here. Greg Plum.
Present. Here.
Bryant Poland. Kelly Potter. Megan Quinn. Here. Christian Ragland.
Here.
Valerie Russell. Amy Sanders. Philip Slusser.
Here.
Richard Shermansky.
Here.
Colleen Smith. Here. Matthew Smith.
Present.
Michael Smith.
Here.
Ricardo Torres. Ian Vickery.
Here.
Michael Wallace. Cindy Wong. Nicole Zinni. Here.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, adoption of the agenda. Representative Lohner?
I move to add the resolution entitled Task Force Creation for the Purpose of Reevaluating the Recreation Fees. It would have to be brought by 2/3.
Vinny, did everyone hear that? I don't know the full title of it, but resolution number 21.
Yeah, it's in front of you.
Okay. It's not. It's okay, I'll get it. Okay. Any objections to adding resolution 21 into new business? No? Okay. Any other objections to the agenda as it is with that addition? Representative Lucas?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the topic of the presentation?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Sorry, Rob didn't send that information to me. He's been scheduled.
Yeah,
I was curious.
I'm sure it'll be good. Okay, any other objections to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, agenda is adopted. Moving on to item number 3, adoption of the past general meeting minutes. Any changes to those? Okay, the minutes are adopted. Moving on to open student forum. Are there any students here to address the assembly? No? Okay. Moving on to item number 5, report by the president, Mr. Kierans.
Welcome back, everyone. You guys have my report in front of you. I'll just go over a couple of the points that are in here. As of Monday, as you all know, the tenant landlord mediation program is now up and running. We're going to be nominating Jason Kleinwax, who is the town hall's director for legal affairs, to the director of that program. That has to still go to ID, but that should just be a formality, hopefully. We also need to update the Greek position. We have 2 candidates that are going to be going also to ID in the very near future to kind of get that set up and ready to go again. We also need to fill our business position again, and we also have a couple candidates for that, and that should be done in the next couple of weeks as well. Secretary Annie's on the process of also adding some more secretaries to kind of ease the load on her. So we should have the exact backup in full strap in 2 weeks after a couple people leaving, going abroad and such. Also, as far as the treasurer position, we do have a nominee for that as well, and that will be going to ID as well, so you guys will be busy. Congratulations. We're also in the process of setting up some more times for the subcommittee meetings of the Student Activity Food Board. That's what Andrew basically was going to last semester, kind of making sure that we get our own set piece of the budget allocation. At the end of last semester, as you guys remember, we did get the right to have our own set amount, and now we have to do a show cause budget at the January meeting, and at the following meeting, we will get our own percentage of the activity fee or our own amount of money moving forward, depending on how the Student Activity Fee Board reacts. I'm also in the process to really make sure that this budget's done right and that we don't have to go back and prolong the process. I'm in the process of securing other budgets of major organizations that do standing allocations. Mary was gracious enough to give me the Center for Student Engagements. Thank you. And we also have, I'm also going to be meeting with Rafi on Friday from SPOT, who's Executive Director on SPOT, to kind of talk about just the budget process, and he's going to be back for a while and to go over that. I also attended the President's Council this past Monday. Basically, it was me, George Corsi, CSG President, and Alfonso. We went over our main initiatives for the year, what's been going on, what we're going to be doing in the future. It's kind of just send it out to the chairs to see what they had any input, and we just kind of went basically off of that. And legal services and secured long-term funding is going to be my chief focus for the rest of the semester. That's it for now. Questions?
Questions? Representative Nance?
Do you by chance know when the first facilities fee board meeting will be, and how what the next step is for that?
We haven't set an exact date yet. We're just trying to work on people's schedules right now, but I would think it would be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we're supposed to meet as soon as we got back. We haven't met yet. There's a lot of talk going on as far as the facilities fee and any increases to that as well. So next week I should have an update for you, kind of concrete answer.
Other questions? No? Okay. Moving on to special presentations. We have Mr. Ben Novak here again to speak with us about a topic of his choice for about 20 minutes. Because we know this is a pretty short meeting, we need to extend the time, we might want to do that, but welcome.
I'm going to try to keep within the time limits tonight. I think I went over the last time. He's got a stopwatch on me. Gavin told me I went too long, so I try to keep it within the time period. And I'm going to try to say a lot of things, and I'll be as direct and bold as I can to do them. Let me begin by complimenting you, all of UPUA, and actually by giving you 2 compliments. The first I will tell you in the form of a story. I'll tell the second one in the form of a story too, with some facts around it. Last fall, late in the fall, I attended a meeting of UPUA. It wasn't the one where I spoke to you down in the assembly room. It was later in the term, when I simply sat in the back of the room and watched over in that corner. I don't know if many of you knew I was present, it didn't matter. But I just walked in, sat down, and watched your meeting. It wasn't anything that you did that night that impressed me. I don't recall what actions you took. Rather, what impressed me was how you conducted that meeting. You did it properly, by the book. You followed Robert's Rules of Order. You stood when you were indicated to speak. You made points of order, proper objections, and followed the way meetings are supposed to be run. It was incredibly impressive. You did it all in good spirits, without complaining about technicalities. Rather, you saw the wisdom of doing it right. Now, I was very impressed. And I could say that your meeting was better conducted than almost any others that I have ever seen, whether Borough Council or the Board of Trustees, or many of the municipalities I worked with, and many other organizations. Now here's the story. A few days later, I was down at Borough Hall talking to several people there, and happened to mention your meetings and how well I thought they were conducted. And all of them said to me, "Oh yeah, we've already heard that." They knew about that. They may not have known what action you took that night, any more than I could remember. But they all had heard that you were conducting meetings that were exemplary. Were a pleasure to watch. A pretty good example for others to follow. You were setting the standard. Now the point of this is something first that my mother always taught me. It's the little things that count. You're constantly told you've got to do something, that it's the actions that count. It's only what you do that matters. The point of this story is to say, no, that's not the only point. More often, it's how you do it that is remembered longer than what you do. How you conduct yourselves is remembered longer. It's the little things that count. Another point of that story is you are noticed. Not necessarily when Collegian covers you. Who remembers yesterday's headlines? But they hear about those who are impressed with you, and that passes through the grapevine. That passes at the breakfast where businessmen and borough officials get together. That happened on the Friday night cocktail circuit, on the weekend parties. Now the second compliment I want to give you is about your actions. The things you have done and are doing since the year began. You, all of you, have put student government back on the map. Even though it was abolished in 2005, you have somehow managed, like the phoenix rising from its own ashes, to bring the great traditions of student government at Penn State back to life. I gather from watching your meetings that all of you are responsible for that, and certainly have excellent leadership under Gavin Kieran and Valerie and your other officers. So the first thing I want to say to you about that is keep it up. You're going someplace. Now I'd like to talk to you about where you're going. Now I have to talk of two things. First, you have a lot further to go to reach your destination. The important role in Penn State that you are expected to fill. That's your destination. What you are expected to fill. Now, I'm not saying when I say expected by whom? Certainly not by the administration. Most of the town people don't ever believe you'll fulfill it. So when I say it's expected, it's only expected by a few old-timers like myself who remember the role that student government once had and believe that it has a very, very important contribution to make to the governance of this university. So let me talk, and the second reason I want to talk to you about where you're going is that I want to help you get there. I want to talk about where that is. And let me just say at the beginning, I'll try to state it in a simple, very simple way. That probably won't be understood. It's like a small package that you've got to unpack. But fundamentally, your goal is to create a student body. We don't have a student body now, at least as I can observe. Most of the townspeople and alumni I talk to observe, or most people that I talk to say. We have 42,500 individuals who don't want anybody messing with their lives or caring about their character. We have 42,000 people who fundamentally want to do what they want to do, and it's none of anybody else's business what they do. And they don't feel they have an obligation to any groups, whether it is their dorm hall organization or their college, that they really feel we have a contribution to make in terms of being part of it, and that how we act reflects on it, and how the success we have reflects on each one of us, and therefore each one of us has a stake in each of our lives. We are our brother's keeper. We are Penn Staters. Now, I'd like to talk to you about the role I would like to play in regard to that. I've been around for 5 months. Before that, I was out of the country for 7 years. Let me just state further that I've been associated with Penn State for 48 years, since 1961. During that period, I've known 5 of the 16 Penn State presidents, been very close friends with 2 of them. One of them presented me this class ring. He and his wife came out to Goldsburg on a cold night like tonight, only much more windy and 7 or 8 more inches of snow, to present it to me as a surprise birthday party in my senior year. To me, I felt an incredible honor that I will never forget. I have known in 48 years since I first came here, I have personally known of the 48 student government presidents that served during that period. I've personally known, talked with, and had conversations with and watched about 25 of those. So I have some understanding and some association with student government. Now, what I've been back in the country for 5 months trying to talk with students. Some alumni and others have urged me to come back to do just that. And I found that more than a little difficult. Students don't like to do things over, to do the kind of deep thinking on something. When I say deep thinking, just running it over and over. You know, like scientists do when they face a problem. Something happens different in a test tube or an experiment that they didn't expect to happen. And they'll talk it over for days, weeks, years, trying to think of new hypotheses to explain it, new ways to understand it, different ways, new experiments, until they finally figure it out. And they don't stop, and they don't give up, and they don't say, I'm tired of looking for it. They keep looking. Well, that's what I expect students to be like today, and they're not. You want to reach closure. You don't want to shoot something over and over. You don't want to be like a Sherlock Holmes or a detective in a mystery story, constantly talking about and trying different avenues to figure out the clues, and constantly looking for new clues and making hypotheses and searches and so forth, trying to figure it out. You don't really enjoy the quest of investigation and conversation. And so I haven't had as much of a conversation as I'd like, but I have had some insight into where this generation is, where your minds are. It's quite exciting. Very, very different. I was just critical in terms of investigative things, but you do other things. And we have to bring all that together into a common conversation. Anyway, that's been my experience for the last 5 months. And probably I've gained a little bit of a reputation for 2 things from that, or at least that's what I hear back. One is that I just want to talk about old things the way they were done in the past. What good is that? That I want to bring back the past and make it happen again. The second thing I hear is that I'm a very difficult person to talk to. A really crotchety old man, an old codger, who would be difficult as hell to talk to. And anyway, those are the 2 things that come back to me. The first one is only half true. The second one is not near true enough. All right? So let me tell you about the first one. That's about trying to bring back the past. Because people don't really know how to use the past, perhaps. The past is not something you try to make happen again in the sense of repeating it as though it's something to be done over again. It's something to learn from. It's something to say, if it can be done once, it can be done again. So I want to tell you a story about that. I said that I have been giving talks ever since I came here about the drinking problem. For I see it as the greatest opportunity for student government and the Penn State student body to earn the respect of everyone in the community, in the university, among the alumni, and the media, and to reach the point where student government is listened to with respect and accepted as an indispensable part of the Penn State governance. Now, those who've heard me know what I'm talking about. I usually carry around a little book called The Laws, written by Plato 2,500 years ago. can't get too much older than that for written records. And here I am quoting this and talking that you should listen to somebody who wrote a book 2,500 years ago. So I'm definitely talking about old things. And I'm definitely talking that there's something in there to learn. So it sounds like it's half justified that I'm talking about the past sometimes. Well, let me tell you a story about that. In early December, I had lunch with the mayor of State College Borough, William Welch. Now, if any of you were following the Collegian last fall, and I wasn't here before, but from what I gather, if you followed the Collegian for the past couple of years, you'd find that you would get the impression that Bill Welch really doesn't like students. And that Bill Welch is the chairman of the alcohol task force, President Spencer's alcohol task force, designed to harass the daylights out of you on drinking. He was in favor of the tap tax, that tax that put a 10% tax on every drink bought in State College, and a lot of other things. This is the man I'm talking about. And when it comes to alcohol and so forth, he's been very, very critical of students and very in favor of the harshest reactions to student drinking downtown. I mean, many of you have been very upset with many of the things that he has been for. So I'm saying all this to get clear in your mind who I'm talking about, William Welch, the mayor of State College. Well, I went to lunch with Bill in order to talk to him about a new approach to student drinking. What I was going to talk to him about was Plato's argument that drinking parties were essential to higher education, essential to the working of a university, that they were important, and that they were to be cultivated, not abolished. And I had my book of Plato with me. I meant to bring it tonight, but I forgot. Now, you would think that the last thing that he wanted to hear was about a 2,500-year-old argument from Plato about drinking parties being good things for college students. So what was his reaction? I had no sooner started to tell him about it and pull out the book than he said, don't tell me, he said, don't bother, Ben, I know that story. I know Plato's argument. He said that was the argument that fundamentally students followed until about 1970 at Penn State. That was back when the period when they started the Phi Psi 500 and a lot of other things, when the borough was all in favor of those things. He says, yeah, student drinking then was great. Yeah, there were always some incident, but those were looked at as exceptions. Most of the time, they were pretty much under control, and students could drink like fish, and everybody loved it. Okay. But after 1970, everything changed. Nobody drank according to Plato's argument. Okay. They drank to get drunk, and they did get drunk, and it was out of control. He said if we could do it back the way they did in 1970 or before, he said we wouldn't have any problem with drinking in State College. Now I want you to understand that from the end of Prohibition in 1933 until 1950, anybody could drink in the bars of State College, even high school students. The law prohibited it, but there was a technicality in the law that required 2 witnesses and an affidavit to prove that you were not 21. Okay, now they just couldn't get 2 witnesses and an affidavit for every kid that walked into a bar. And they didn't try because it was too much paperwork. So, people drank them. And I won't go further into that, but, drinking was pretty much welcomed and it's not much of a problem. Now, I don't think that there is a student in this room, except maybe 1 or 2 have heard me before, that knows or understands how it was that the worst enemy actually agrees with your drinking parties. Actually agrees with drinking parties by college students. I'm not going to go through Plato's argument here. We'll save that for another time. I hope I've got your interest in it. But I will say this. You could utterly reverse the borough's attitude towards students and drinking parties if you were willing to start listening to a few old stories. And you would find that people around you, if you put them in terms of those old stories, might think, boy, you're pretty smart, and probably support you in a lot more things you want to do. And you could get credit for solving a problem that Graham Spanier hasn't been able to solve at all. Okay? And I don't mean by prohibiting drinking and getting rid of it. I mean by learning how to have proper drinking parties that enhance the university rather than an enhanced student life. In fact, if you were willing to take the time to hear and read for yourselves a few old stories, you would learn a lot of new things you could do. Now let me talk a little about learning from the past. You go into the past not to repeat it. The past can never be repeated. What is dead and cannot be brought back to life. Rather, you go into the past to learn from it. Many great people have made the statement, for those who do not learn from the past, those who do not learn from the past are condemned to repeat it. And that's what's important at this stage of UA. You've had a tremendous rebirth, tremendous renaissance this year, under leadership in which you're getting organized, doing things, gaining organizational skills, learning how to do a lot of things and work together. The problem will be, are you going to stay at that level, or are you going to start making all the mistakes of the past? So the student government has the spotted record it has from the 60s till 2005. Or are you going to learn from the past and avoid those mistakes? And that is what I fear about the tremendous advances and successes of this current year. Unless you see your advances in a historical perspective and learn from the mistakes of the past, you will fall into the old ruts and results in USG going down again. Let me repeat, I believe and know that student government has an invaluable role to play in the total governance of Penn State University. I want you to achieve that goal. But you must be willing to avoid all the old mistakes. You must see things with new eyes. And only by understanding the mistakes of the past will you see anything new at all. We learn history not to repeat the past, but in order to learn how to avoid repeating the past. Now, I want to talk to you about myself.
Mr. Nova, all the time that we have, we're at 20 minutes. Representative Szymanski?
Well,
I'm able to extend by 5 minutes.
5-minute extension. Is there a second? Any objections? Do you object?
okay, well, I've only got through half of this, but let me just say I have 5 minutes to condense the rest of it and say what role I want to play in this. I would like to talk to you. I've spent years, literally since 1963, over the years, going up and reading the collegians in the Penn State room, talking to old alumni, reading old books about Penn State, reading all the histories, and seeing in experience what Penn State student government has been, can be, and what has happened to it over the years. In relating to you, I want to suggest 3 models to you. You all know Matrix and you know Morpheus. Well, I want to be your Morpheus. You all know Star Wars, and I want to be your Yoda. You all know The Lord of the Rings, and I want to be your Gandalf. I want to talk about that for a little bit. Let's take Morpheus first. When Neo is first introduced to Morpheus, Morpheus says, I'm going to tell you the truth. And then he says, you were the one who was waited for, and I'm going to say to you, you are the ones who are waited for. And now you need to be trained. And what's the first thing he did? He plugs them in and takes them into the Matrix. He says, you're going to fight me. And then Morpheus takes Neo and tosses them all around the room. Tosses them down on the floor against the wall, tosses them through the wall, breaks the post about the size of that by throwing them into it. Tells them to jump to the next building and watches them collapse go down and hit the pavement 20 floors below. He says, but I believe in you and you've got to learn. Now learning isn't easy, learning is tough, especially when we don't have a lot of time. The same learning curve was done by Luke Skywalker, the the Empire had found out where the resisting people were, and they attacked their planet. They were being destroyed, trying to get away on spaceships and being captured. Princess Leia was captured. And what does Obi-Wan Kenobi tell Luke Skywalker to do? He says, leave all this. He says, I want to go and fight. I want to fight all this. This is the big battle. He says, no, that's not important. You go off and see Yoda. Learn how to be a Jedi Knight. Learn the ancient methods. Okay? Well, I want to teach you some of the ancient methods. That's why I want to be your Yoda. I want to say, you can learn. Learn to walk away from the fight a little bit, take the time and say, let's learn new methods of dealing with this. I want to say too, like in Gandalf and Frodo, it was Frodo had to go to Mordor to do it. He had to do it all alone except for Sam. Sam came along, him and Sam. Gandalf wasn't there to take him there. And I'm not going to be here to take you anyplace or tell you what to do or how to do it. But I will teach you new ways of learning, new tactics, new strategies, new ways of thinking about it to achieve the rightful role that student government should have. And I say rightful role not because you have a right to it, but more because Penn State has a right to you. You have a duty to Penn State, and Penn State needs you. It needs what student government can do. And in the broadest sense, that's to build a student body. There are many things that you can do. I'll try to talk to you as directly as possible. First, I wish I weren't the only one to do this. I hope there are others who will come forward. I know there are others who can do it better than me. But right now, I'm all you've got. And I'm going to take the time to talk to you all I can, to start conveying to you different ways of thinking about student government's place at Penn State. There are a lot of things you can do. I say, you can solve the drinking problem and make students have a lot of fun with alcohol and show that you can accomplish what Graham Spanier and his alcohol task force can. And you know what? If you do it the right way, you're going to have the head of that task force on your side as your ally. Okay? And you can accomplish what 16 years of Spanier's alcohol task force could. Okay? The second thing, there are many other things you can do. You all know that you're not treated very well by the
15 seconds.
Finances of the university. You can do something about that. You can help do it. I'm going to give you a lot of little things to do or talk about that you may think are absurd, much like Yoda telling Luke Skywalker some of the things to do that he thought were absurd. But you'll see that they make sense and see that they work. Well, see, I didn't get it all done, but I think we're in the time.
Yeah, that's all the time we have. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you again. Okay, moving on to item number 7, old business, none. Item number 8, new business. We'll begin with resolution 20. It first needs to be brought to the floor by a 2/3 vote. We can have an introduction. Okay, basically I'll introduce it. So resolution 20 is pretty short and sweet. Representative Smith is playing chairman of the assembly tonight, so he has extra copies if you didn't get one. Okay, so this weekend is the Association of Big Ten Students, which is the gathering of all 11 university student governments. We had this right before the fall semester started last August. We hosted it. Now University of Illinois is hosting this semester. With the odd timing of our semester beginning this week, I am going. If you want to scratch my name and put someone else there, that's fine with me. I won't be offended. Also, Representative Karasik will be going. We have 2 spots, so those are the 2 people that are going as of now. If you have better ideas, we can discuss those. And also, I gave you all a bunch of sort of attachments to this resolution. There's 3 different travel options, pretty pricey just because of the timing of it. We will be leaving in 2 days. So the first one, or the second one is the one that's actually put on the resolution. It's about $1,011. That's not our first choice. Our first choice is obviously the top, the first numbered one, which is the most expensive, and it's the least number of hours traveling time for Mr. Karasik and me to be together. Anyways, and then the bottom is pure driving, and that is, $82, but almost a full day of driving in the car. So, and those are all round trip, so that's why it seems so many hours. Okay, resolution 20 has to be brought to the floor by 2/3.
So, I said,
Representative Shemansky.
yes. So what this resolution is basically according to the sheet with the 3 choices on it, it's choice number 1.
No, resolution 20 is choice number 2 on your sheet that I gave you as the attachment.
Oh, okay.
But that's because we wanted to be fair and put the middle in there. It's not our first choice though. Our first choice is number 1. Yeah. Representative Knox.
Motion to bring resolution 20 to the floor.
Is there a second? Any objections to bringing resolution 20 to the floor? Okay, great. Resolution 20, discussion. Representative Shemansky.
So you have to take a car, where's the car?
That's coming from me.
Okay.
Representative Karasik.
Just so you know, I'm going to abstain on this course, but I thought I'd give you my opinion, and I'd be saying this whether I'm going or not. With the weather the way it is, and that's why we included a weather report on the back, it's not a good idea for us to have to go 3 hours to Philadelphia, then 3 hours back, especially getting back. We would not get back until late at night on Sunday. I realize this is a lot of money that we're looking at. We do have the stopgap funding. If you really think it's too much money, then I understand why you would vote for option number 2. We obviously need a motion in order to change this to option number 1. But in all honesty, it makes the most sense to fly to State College rather than adding all the extra fees of gas, paying for parking, and then you have to drive back and spend more time with me, which I wouldn't wish on anyone. So do her the favor, I guess.
Further discussion. Ms. Olson?
I made the drive from Champaign to State College not a week ago, and it is not only 11 hours, it is at least a solid 12. So you're looking at 24 hours travel time. It was for me, and that was with no weather problems. And then also you should consider it's not just the cost of gas, it's tires, brakes, wear in your car, so it should be at least 50 cents a mile, which I believe is probably about the IRS rate. So it would be at least $3.16 that you should be allowed to get.
Representative Lucas?
Just for clarification, did you guys check like Delta, US Air, did you go to their official website?
Yeah, I did a really comprehensive. The quotes that I gave you are like lowest and they're pretty comparable to cheap travel sites, Expedia, Orbit, cheap tickets, and like Delta.com and kind of blah blah blah. Yeah. Representative Karasik?
Northwest is sold out. They're not. Delta doesn't fly from here anymore. The only choices, if we came from here, would be United and U.S. Airways. If we came from Philly, we could actually we'd still have to connect somewhere. But yeah, it's all the same prices on every airline. Unfortunately, 3 days out, it gets very expensive. And we couldn't plan ahead because we didn't have the details from Champaign early enough in order to do that.
Further discussion? Representative Slessor?
move to amend the resolution to read on the recommendation line 6, in addition, $1,845.18 to be allocated to associate it with options.
Okay. Is there a second? Did everyone hear that? Okay, any objections to that amendment? Representative Lerner?
Yeah, I object just because, no offense to anyone, to whoever is passing this going, but I think it's actually, knowing the rough state of State College Airport, University Park Airport from time to time, especially this time of year, and knowing that it might not be that bad of a drive from Philly to State College, it says no one where they're southeast. I think it's actually probably from a safety standpoint, not that much different, and it might take less time than the delays that University Park Airport will have. And from that standpoint, which is really my main point, I think option 2 is better, so I object to the amendment. And also, I guess from a monetary standpoint, it's a big difference, but that's not as crucial.
Any other objections to that amendment of putting $1,800 roughly on item or line 6 on the resolution? Any other objections? Okay, show of hands in favor of that amendment. Okay, that amendment fails. Further discussion on the resolution? What?
How many?
21, 2.
You need majority for the amendment.
No, it's like 10 people.
Right, you have to take the
Oh, sorry, no's. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9. Abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, that amendment passes. 10, 9, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Further discussion on resolution 20. So we are doing the first option. Representative Knock.
I have one question. Do you know how far the university is in the airport?
No, I'll just pay the cab rider. Someone will pick us up from ABTS. It's usually what happens. Like they make sure you get in. Representative Karasik.
I'll pay the cab ride out of pocket. If
Yeah.
you want.
Great, that is a great plan. Good plan.
They're gonna pick them up from ABTS.
Representative Szymanski.
So, I think we could have gotten a cheaper flight if we just planned this earlier. Why are we doing this separately? Did we throw this together in like a day?
We are still on resolution 20.
Oh.
Discussing that only. We can discuss that later.
So,
Representative Szymanski.
this could very well be more expensive.
Sure.
Okay.
If we were doing it tomorrow. Representative Wallace.
Since you guys are getting the flight, I'd like to make a resolution that an amendment, I'm sorry, that it say, be it resolved that Richard Szymanski.
Go ahead. No? Okay. Further discussion on Representative Miller?
Second.
Any objections to voting on the resolution? Representative Lucas?
Briefly hear what plans you have to bring back what you learned. I know like you're part of EQA, but like formally, if we're going to spend almost $2,000, I want to know what you guys can bring back.
Representative Karasik?
Valerie and I will be collaborating throughout the weekend, but in addition, we will we'll probably come and speak to each facet of the organization, the executive board. Obviously, we're both on steering, so we can take care of that, and then we'll obviously give a presentation to the assembly. in addition to that, we hope to work with the collegiate so that it reaches the university community, any other organizations that are interested, we're going to talk to them as well. But it's as much as it's bringing something back, it's also getting our name there, showing that since we just hosted it, showing the influence out there. And as Dr. Novak stated, we really want to show that we got our, we're doing a good job here at Penn State. So
yeah, and the Collegian is doing a story on it next Tuesday, I believe. And if you would like some sort of formal presentation, you can add that into the resolution too. That's an idea. Keep us accountable. Mr. Cairns?
I think in the future we should probably look at the role of APTS and successes. I know that there's a clear purpose for us to go for the past maybe 2 years of USG, UPUA, and that whole contingent. But you're right, it is at a huge cost. So I think in the future that's definitely something that we should look at. I think it would be kind of hypocritical for us to just have hosted it and then not go. It's the only. I think that's the strongest argument. But I have no problem looking at it in the future beyond this. So I do understand this.
Further discussion on, that was an objection to resolution 20. So any other, or on voting, so any other objections? Representative Quinn?
Yeah, sorry to follow up, Steve. What kind of workshops are you doing or discussions?
To be honest, I have not gotten the agenda. I think Mr. Cairns has? No. Okay, usually what happens, for those of you who have never attended, Mr. Knott can follow up on this too, but basically it is go around, whatever sort of themes that they want to discuss, the hosting university, basically what's pressing on their agenda. We present like what we've been up to, and as do all the other universities. Mr. Knott, do you have something to add to that?
I was gonna say, I think I got the agenda emailed a couple of days ago. Like they really just sent out the information for this event like a couple of days ago. So you can't really come at Valerie and Andrew for saying, well, why are we doing this today? Because now it's more expensive. Because like all the information really just got to us. And I did just get the agenda, I believe, like 2 days ago. So if you want me to, I can forward that on everybody.
And Representative Knock is what's your title officially?
Campus director.
Campus director for ABTS. That's why he's in the know.
Yeah, no, just following up. I guess the best things that I can say that came out of ABTS, some of the major ideas that we've kind of come to fruition, the online book swap, that came out of, I think it was University of Michigan, that was an idea that they had. Legal services, Michigan State had pretty comprehensive legal services, so that's where I got that idea. I think a lot of the best practices and some of our major initiatives now kind of came out from listening to other schools and seeing what they were doing. I do understand though that maybe there might not be a need moving forward, but again, I think for this conference, it's in our best interest to attend.
Yes, on voting. No on voting. One abstention. One. Okay, we're going to move to a vote now. That was 19-1-1, which doesn't make any sense because was there 2 abstentions? That still doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'm missing 1 vote for this one though. I'm 1 short for this one.
Revote.
Okay, it's clearly a majority. We're moving into a vote on resolution 20. Show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Can you please raise your hand high? Okay, 0. Abstentions? Okay, now that makes sense. All right, right, 1607, resolution 20 passes. Okay, moving on to resolution 21. We added this into our agenda under new business. Do we have an introduction first? We have to bring it to the floor by 2:30, but we can have an introduction first. So, good.
My introduction, I guess, is really short.
Sam, can you come to the front, please?
It's really short. Essentially, the purpose of this resolution, which if anyone's having trouble finding it, is a task force creation for the purpose of reevaluating the rec room fee. Basically, the reason this is coming up on such short notice is I just attended the ARCH meeting not too long ago, and the purpose of this resolution is just to sync up our plans with the ARCH plan that was passed. And I can get into more detail later, but that will serve the introduction. The purpose of this is to sync up our plan with the ARCH plan.
Will you stand for questions?
Yes.
Any questions? Representative Smith?
Since this is what the resolution was, it still delegates authority facilities committee name for buildings. Do you have any idea of this proceeding already?
No, I don't. I think it will look, I put that in the original plan.
Safety?
I put that in there because drawing on the original plan, I believe that was what we had before, was decided before that it was essentially the facilities committee that was handling this. But no, I don't have any idea.
The other reason is facilities committee is the handle of trade unions, so
I consider it, but I'm not sure if that thing will be facilities plus operational partners.
Any other questions? Representative Lombard?
You'll have to remind me, I think in the last semester it was Marsh that didn't seem like they were expressing interest in the task force. Is that true? Like, what's their opinion now? Are they willing to do this? Obviously,
Can everyone hear? Okay, good.
Yes, at the meeting Monday, they actually asked the motion to bring forward their people into task force is our word. It's essentially a discussion things that will eventually result in hopefully maximum resolutions. I guess any more questions on the big after? I think I'll serve that actually bring it.
Okay. All right, if there are no more questions, we gotta bring this to the floor by 2/3. Would anyone like to do that? Representative Mack?
Motion to bring this resolution to the floor.
Second.
Any objections? Okay, show of hands if you would like to bring resolution 21 to the floor. Objections? Abstentions? 2301. Okay, discussion on resolution 21. Representative Miller.
I just think that we committed to this, and I guess the last meeting before the break, and there's no reason we shouldn't follow through, so I would vote to vote.
Okay, is there a second? Any objections to voting on resolution 21? Okay, all in favor of resolution 21, please raise your hand. Objections? 0. Abstentions? Oh, 2201. Whatever, it's a majority. Resolution 21 passes. Assembly Chairman, do you have something to add?
No, I will
Okay. Moving on to item number 9, liaison reports. Graduate Student Association, Joanne Olson.
Yep, just one quick thing, we met tonight, which was our first meeting for the semester, and sometime in mid-February, we'll be hosting another blood drive that is somehow connected to Thon. The details are a little bit sketchy. But what you should know about that blood drive is that there will also be an opportunity to register for the National Bone Marrow Donor Registry, which is a test that generally costs $60 and someone is funding it or granting. So if you have interest in being part of the National Bone Marrow Donor Registry, look for the GSA blood drive in mid-February.
Any questions for Ms. Olson? Okay, thank you. Andrew Kuntz. Oh, you're not here. From Arsh. Okay, moving on to item number 10, report by the association directors and staff. Just 10 minutes in total for all of this. So, Chief of Staff, do you have anything that we need to talk about quickly?
There's only 4 of us, so this shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
I'm not up to too much. I'm working on some Board of Arbitration, Elections Commission things. We have a treasurer coming up for the Internal Development Committee, and bylaws are a work in progress.
Any questions for him? Nope. Okay. Ms. Raja, Women's Affairs.
So over break I planned, I got the logistics of the Women's Symposium down. So it's going to be next Wednesday. It is going to be from 6:30 to around 10. So for those of you who want to make it, I guess if you can just stop in until maybe 8 or whenever it starts. I'm sorry, I only planned it for Wednesday because I thought it would be a strategic day in which most people might be available. And I also need help in promoting it somehow. I have posters if you want to hang it up or flyers. You can just come see me afterwards. And that's it.
Any questions for her? Representative Lombard?
Oh, right. The symposium is taking place 102 Thomas.
Any other questions for Ms. Raja? Representative Lucas?
Do you want me to pass these around?
Just to the women's studies.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to Mr. Vickery. Legislative Affairs, none. Okay, Ms. Zinni. Religious Affairs.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to start going to meetings for this semester with interfaith dialogues and the Center for African Religious Studies. I should be starting pretty soon.
Any questions for her? None? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 11, committee reports. We'll begin with steering committee. Because Mr. Gravella is absent, I will ask Representative Smith to report. Representative Karasik?
My suggestion would be just, we try to have it written as much as possible, just to see the report for the exact board written in front of us as many times as possible for the meeting. Yeah, for the meeting.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I know. I almost didn't have a report this week, but this week. Thanks.
Exec board did meet at 7, so that's probably, that's okay. Yeah. All right. So, steering committee, Representative Smith. Do you want to report on that?
No, I think actually it's better in this committee, it's just, the steering committee is our first meeting this semester, and the biggest thing was gathering reports. I don't have anything typed up, sorry. The minutes will be coming out as soon as possible, but other than that,
Okay, so let's move on to the other committees. Ms. Representative Karasik with internal development.
Obviously, well, welcome back, of course. Hope everyone had a nice break. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year, everything you celebrate. Obviously, it's a busy time for internal development. which apparently it always seems to be a busy time for criminal development. At least I knew what I was getting into. Elections Commission's applications closed this evening at 5 p.m. I'm going to go check the office for any that were dropped off there. I was also emailed a bunch. I probably have somewhere between 15 and 20. I have to do a final count. Seeing as only one of my committee members is here tonight, and I haven't been able to reach them all, I have to schedule meetings in order to also schedule the interviews. And so everyone who applied for that will be contacted in the coming week as far as when they will be interviewed by ID. In addition, there'll be some exec board appointments coming to ID, and of course the elections code is forthcoming from ID as well. We are still in the process of finalizing our heads to that. And Ralph, Gavin, Nick, and I, as Pete Corey's respective co-chairs, and of course President and Chairman of the Assembly, received an email followed by resignation from Pete Corey. Unfortunately, Pete's health is not good this semester. He has to have surgery, I believe, on either his tonsils or his thyroid, something in his neck. And so he was missing some meetings last semester, if you recall, due to his health. And so he has resigned from the Assembly in addition to, obviously, two respective committees. So we all wish him a speedy recovery, of course, and we can discuss, if we want to, something that we can do there, perhaps on the card or something like that. And I don't know, and I certainly know that his presence in this room would be nice.
Any questions for Mr. Karasik? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Programming. Ms. Gupta is no longer with us, so we have Representative King, who is the new chairman of that committee.
Hey, I didn't give you a written report because it's not a whole lot to write about. Just had to be my one-on-one meeting we went over what we're going to do for this coming semester. It's going to be a lot of work.
Any questions for Representative King? Okay, thank you. Moving on to facilities, Representative Vance.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for their support of Resolution 21. We look forward to meeting with Arsh. There are some issues, some things brought to the attention of Ralph, I believe, Matt Smith, President, about how there is a problem with Arsh meetings with attendance of on-campus reps and other people. Just want to a very friendly manner remind our on-campus representatives that we really appreciate you trying your best to show the Arsh meetings, especially with the whole thing going on with the task force and us willing to improve our relationship with Arsh. In addition to Pete Corey missing, Will Barr is he was missing this semester because he's studying abroad, and then have someone else in the American Navy, so we're kind of short-handed right now. But we're hoping that's not going to get away too much of some of the things we want to get accomplished this semester. I asked at the President's report about the Facilities Review Board and the board working with that. I personally kind of have some conflicts in my schedule for tonight. Back to my attendance to Everest and advisory board meetings. We got one of them, trying to get that sorted out with Mary and a couple other people. Also, there were some issues that came up that people brought to my attention before break regarding the lights being on the law school. And a couple other things I recently was able to get in touch with Dr. Stan Law and a few other people regarding some of these issues. So they wants to find out some more information about those. And there was some attention given to some of those unsafe urban states website and others. So that's about that. So we'll have our next meeting this Tuesday, January 8 p.m. That's all.
Any questions, Representative Lucas?
Nick, I'm sorry, Representative Vance. Can you explain what the issue was with the law school lately?
Supposedly there was he's not here, but Chris Morrell brought my attention that there were some concerns with lights being left on the law school building last semester before the school had formally opened up, and just about it being a waste of energy, a waste of cost. Kind of came at a time that was a little bit of a concern because supposedly the state legislature removed some type of cap, costs cap, or something of that nature on energy costs, especially on electricity. And I had the email correspondence right here. And Dr. Law said that was because There were construction people working there late at night, as well as they had to do lots of tests and everything else. And because I think obviously December it could start very early. Some of the shortest days of the year in terms of daylight, and they had to leave the lights on all night. So he said that's why. Now it's pretty much a dead issue because the new law school building's opened up, so students were losing music classrooms in there. The log library goes all night. Move everything on.
Any other questions for Mr. Mance? Okay, thank you. Moving on to academic affairs, Representative Smith.
Sure, real briefly on my committee report, under the new budgetary outlines, keep the top, classes closed anytime the committee spends that money internally. We had to spend $307 out of it for our covering for our dinner that we had. Turned out very well. Thanks, I really appreciate that. My part's hard work on that. And also we spent $450 on Finals Frenzy, a banner that we won't have to obviously buy anymore. And well, not $450 and supplies. I know we was going to get this semester. But everything else you can talk to me about afterwards, I will get a meeting tomorrow night.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to governmental affairs, Representative Miller.
Just a few things. Note the new governmental affairs meeting time. We changed it to Monday before in 110 Hub, so hopefully that was better for schedules. Have an idea for University Park tuition rally because of the recent withdrawal of appropriations, and also have found an opportunity to work potentially with the philanthropy group on campus to pair up, and they can kind of promote the importance of alumni and donor support as we go through the importance of appropriations in the state. So something that the discretionary funds may be used on, and also if you want to shoot from here, but if I can see my committee really quick at the back after the meeting. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Diversity and campus life, Representative Lucas.
I'm going to keep it brief. We didn't have a meeting this week. Our first meeting this semester will be Tuesday. I'm prepared to bring a draft quarterly to that meeting to get approval of our committee. We're also waiting on legislation from Christian and Meg regarding two different issues. Meg's resolution being student petition and state funding, and then Christian are planning
What is that?
diversity, cultural roundtable, social.
Any questions? Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 12, comments for the good of the order. Representative Karasik.
Just a couple things. First off, obviously with all the empty chairs, we're faced with some difficult times until we can get all that filled, and that is going to take a little while. Ralph's working hard on that, but I think we all just need to move forward, work doubly as hard as we have been to pick up the slack of the organization, because we can't slow down now. We have a lot of things on the burner that really need to be taken care of. Second, if there's anything that you want Val or I to take to ABTS, please let us know, either physical or just information-wise. Let us know. We'll make sure it gets said there. And lastly, Annie and Mike win Best Dressed. That's something that I'm going to be doing now. And so TV 3 to 5 p.m. we have a Best Dressed Female and Best Dressed Male.
Mr. Kierans.
Yeah, you all should be best dressed. I think that there's like 9 weeks left in this semester, so I understand that. You want to turn around for a second? There's 9 weeks left in the semester. There's a couple faculty senate meetings. There's a couple things. Semester's almost over. Our time's almost over as a group. Whatever you're going to have to accomplish, you're going to have to accomplish basically in the next 10 days. You're going to have to figure out what exactly you want to do and move forward with that. I know in the beginning everyone dressed really well, and I don't think that would have been an issue. I'd like to get back to that. I know it's the first meeting. I'm not overly concerned with it, but if we get back to business casual, business professional, I'd like to see that. I also want everyone to go out and support Ruth next week with the Women's Symposium. We're just starting to get our executives first year we had it. This is kind of something she's been working on for a while. It's before our meeting. It's at 6:30, 102 Hub, and I don't know how many people are going to go out and all that. And it would be nice if 102 Thomas. If you don't have something going on, if you could go out there just to show some support, and let's get that executive moving in the right direction. I do want to see reports in the future. I know I'm not the best with it, and I have to, and a lot of that goes to the executive as well, and I'll talk to them about that, that we do need to have reports. And lastly, if you guys get a chance, could you just email Pete Corey, because yeah, he hasn't come back this semester. I tried to call him, he wasn't even able to speak, so he's pretty sick. I take it that he's going to be okay, but it seems like to take a semester off is a pretty big deal. I just want to end this on the right note. It's our first meeting back. We passed some legislation. We didn't have too much serious stuff to talk about tonight, but in the future we will. So let's just keep that in mind and finish. We had a great first semester. I was so happy with everyone. I'd like to continue that one. So thanks.
Representative Szymanski.
I'd like to personally thank Dr. Novak for gracing us with his presence here, and I think I'll speak for everybody when we are honored that you want to be honored with. I really do. That is great. The other thing I'd like to point out is thank you, Gavin, for pointing out that we only have 9 weeks left, and this is my last semester here at Penn State, and I am really, really going to miss these weekly meetings that I've just been coming through for the last 2 years, and I really look forward to what it is we're going to be doing this semester. But my last meeting here will be, well, I'll be pretty devastated.
Representative Lucas.
I would just like to ask, would you and Andrew be able to present next week or the following week? Allocate 20 minutes to your findings and experiences with
Obviously, we can't present in theory that week, but yeah, we could probably present.
Even if you guys need an extra week to prepare a formal presentation, I just think it would be good to do something.
Okay. That's fair. Other comments? Representative Wallace?
Just real quick, tomorrow night there's going to be a Save Our House benefit on Peter Prospect, so if anybody would like to come out for that, you can see for more details on that.
Representative Karasik?
If it's okay, I want to introduce Kayla and Kelly. Kayla is the new president of ARC, and Kelly, are you saying still treasurer? Okay. Parker, who graced us with his presence in our last meeting, when we're all at New Paris, and that's my name, Frank. Frank, okay. Near and Kayla has been now taking that over, so I thank them for coming and welcome them, and good luck.
Other comments for the good of the order? Ms. Annie Fiskus?
If you haven't yet, can you just email me your office hours, or I have the document on my computer right now, so if you want to just come to me now. I know everyone's still getting their schedule worked out, but just get back to me soon.
Any other comments? No? Okay, closing roll call.
Okay. Michael Aldinger. Mike Anderson.
Here.
Jim Byrne. Ruth Kennegarasha. Mark Cannon. Rob Crivello. Annie Fiskus. Pat Gordon. Nicholas Heim. Hebert Hines. Andrew Karasik.
Here.
Gavin Kieran. John King. Andrew Koontz. Matthew Lockman. Sean Leonard. Daniel Lurch. Sam Loner.
Here.
Benjamin Lombard.
Here.
Stephen Lucas.
Here.
Nick Mann.
Here.
Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Christopher Morrell. Jose Baman. Christopher Knott.
Present.
Ellie Ockelberg. Joanne Olson.
Here.
Greg Plum.
Present.
Bryant Pullen. Kelly Potter. Megan Quinn. Christian Ragland. Valerie Russell. Amy Sanders. Bill Slusser. Richard Szymanski. Colleen Smith. Matthew Smith. Michael Smith. Ricardo Torres. Ian Vickery. Michael Wallace. Cindy Wong. Nicole Zinni.
Meeting is adjourned.